Welcome to Teaching Truth. My name is Glenn Cartwright. We're by the side of the road that runs from Jerusalem to Jericho. We're exploring the parable this week of the Good Samaritan, and if you have your Bibles, I invite you to open them, if you will, at Luke chapter 10 at that particular story. We're thinking yesterday about the robbers who came down that road. The robbers who beat the man and stripped him and left him to die. And how important it is for us in our lives to beware of the robbers that may be sitting there waiting for us. Of the thief, the robber that comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy, and the importance of surrendering those areas of our life to God where we need God's help. And today we want to look at not only the priest and the Levite who came down the road, but actually the Good Samaritan. See, the road was notorious for ambushes to take place, and so the priest and the Levite were reluctant to stop because they didn't necessarily want to be the next victim. The first two, the priest and the Levite, they just couldn't do the job. They passed by. And we don't know, the Bible doesn't tell us the reason for not getting involved. However, what it does indicate to us is that these were clearly men of religion, men of the clergy, as it were. One is a priest, the other is a Levite. But they hadn't time to help. They hadn't time to stop. And therein is a challenge for us. You see, the difference between Jesus and the Pharisees, the very religious and righteous group of people, is that the Pharisees went about being good, whereas Jesus went about doing good. Let's not be pharisaical. Let's not just be good, but let's do good. Let's not walk past where we see a need. Let's not walk by on the other side, but let's be like the Good Samaritan. We can either be like the priest or the Levite, or we can stop to reach down and pick up the hurting. Do you remember the image, I think it was in the 1992 Olympics, where Derek Redmond on that last lap needed help? I think he tore a ligament, but he was determined to finish, and his dad out of the stadium ran on to that track and put his arm round him and helped him, and together the two of them hobbled towards the finish line. His father picked up his son because his son was hurting. And God the Father, through the parable of the Good Samaritan, wants us to be like the Father who came to help his son towards the finishing tape, to pick up the hurting and to carry them. Our job is to pick up the hurting and help bring them to Jesus. Now, do you know that the Good Samaritan arguably did 4 things that he could have been criticised for? 4 excuses that we see that we might even offer to God for not getting involved in doing what he wants us to do. 4 excuses that we might offer for not stopping and helping. Firstly, the Good Samaritan was moved with compassion. Now, do you know that in Vietnam, the medics were told never to look into the eyes of a wounded patient, as it might invoke emotion or compassion. Jesus in Matthew chapter 9 verse 35, when he He saw the multitude. He was moved with compassion. Ezekiel 3:15 talks about identifying with the prisoners, feeling their hurt, wearing their chains. You see, some people make a living, others make a difference. Let's be those people who are moved with compassion when we see a need. People don't care, quite frankly, how much we know until they know how much we care. Secondly, the Good Samaritan wasn't trained to do the job. He's not a doctor. He's pouring in oil and wine to the wounds of the man. How does he know that the guy is not allergic? Have you ever stopped and thought about that? He could have killed the man. But he was the only one available. He could have played it safe, but actually he took that step. He stepped out to help the man. He wasn't trained to do the job, but he helped. And you might say, Glenn, I'm not qualified. How can God use me? I mean, I'm useless. I love the story that's told of two friends who were standing at the bottom of a garden, looking into a garden shed, and one friend said to the other, "Oh, I like that old golf putter that's just lying there gathering cobwebs." And his other friend said, "Well, by all means, if you like it, you can take it away. It's been lying there doing nothing." So his friend took it away and polished it and made it look nice. And years later, a ball was stroked on the 18th green at St Andrews. And with that shot, Bobby Jones won the Open Golf Championship. And yep, you've guessed it, he did it with that old putter that had been lying gathering cobwebs for years in a garden shed. But in the hands of the master, there was nothing that old putter couldn't do. In God's hands, your master, there is nothing that you cannot do. God can use you. And thirdly, the third thing for which the Good Samaritan could well have been criticised was that he moved a wounded patient. He put him on his donkey. Now, elementary medical knowledge is that you don't move a wounded patient. I mean, you could have dislodged a blood clot and killed the man. His solution could have been worse than the man's problem. But yet he still got involved. And the fourth reason for which he could legitimately have been criticised is that had the man died, he could have been chargeable with causing his death. But the Good Samaritan, unlike the priest and the Levite, the Good Samaritan, he saw a need, he stopped, and he got involved. Is God speaking to you today that you ought not to walk by on whatever need God has put into your heart and into your mind, that you need to get involved, you need to crouch down, as it were, you need to get down and help those who are hurting, who are wounded? You might just be that very person who can bind up the wounds of someone who is hurting, who can offer that cup of cold water, as it were, in Jesus' name, who can make that difference. Today, don't offer the excuses that arguably the Good Samaritan could have offered but chose not to. Choose not to offer those excuses, but rather choose to get involved and make a difference. God bless you.